Welcome everybody. I'm Catherine Lawrence. I work with the Science Gateways Community Institute in the Community Engagement and Exchange area. I just want to give you a few bits of housekeeping logistics for this webinar, as well as to tell you a little bit about SGCI before we get started, so you have some context for that. So just so you know, do please keep your audio and video muted. Once Nate starts presenting, we'll be recording his video and audio, and it is, sorry, his video and slides, so it's helpful not to have any additional images captured with that presentation. Also, we will be welcoming questions during chat throughout the entire presentation, and just click the chat button. If it doesn't show for some reason, it will be in the More menu at the bottom of your screen for the Zoom window. And I'll be holding the questions that you submit till the end of the main part of Nate's presentation. So feel free to put any kinds of questions that you have in there during the presentation. This was being recorded, and both the recording and the slides will be on our website, which we'll share with you a link at the very end of the presentation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about SGCI now, so let's hear about that. So the Science Gateways Community Institute has been funded by the National Science Foundation to provide support to people building gateways, and we do that in three main ways, and I should say not just people building gateways, but those using gateways. The first way that we provide support is to those building and running gateways, and that in that area that includes hands-on development support from software developers who can put up to 25% of their time on a project. We also have consultants who can provide advice on specific topics related to gateways, such as cybersecurity, usability, or business planning. And then we provide a catalog of gateways and software. So if you have a gateway that you've created and you'd like for someone to know about it in order to use it, or as an example of what they might create, because that's, some people have been inspired to say, you know, I want to create a gateway and I want it to be just like that, but for my own discipline. You can look there in that catalog for that. But also we have software platforms and other tools such as HUBzero that we'll be presenting today listed, so you can find already existing tools that serve a lot of the needs of people building gateways. In our second area of support for gateways, we provide a lot of education and training. Of course, website resources and materials are on our website, but this webinar series is another example of how we both provide education as well as something that we collect and store on our website. We have quite a substantial archive now of the past several years of webinars. Gateway Focus Week, which currently is accepting applications, is a 5-day program that's intensive for teams. 2 to 3 members from a gateway team come and participate in a collection of activities and that are focused on getting you to understand your stakeholders and the value that your gateway brings. People have found that to be very helpful for making the case for further funding or engaging more users. And if you want to know more about that, 2 weeks ago we had a special webinar on that topic. About what the Focus Week entails, and so you can learn more about those details there. We also offer a number of student-focused programs, and right now we also have applications open for our summer internships, as well as our Summer Coding Institute. The internships are, we're looking for applicants on both sides of the equation, both students who would like to be interns, as well as sites that would like to have an intern. And if you would like to have an intern at your site and you actually know a student that you'd like to engage, we can also on occasion provide some support for students doing that. So so don't let that stop you from applying for our program. And finally, our annual conference, which will be in Bethesda, Maryland in October this year. The call for participation is open for that as well. That's another great opportunity for learning more. about gateways. And then finally, as part of our community efforts, we have a partner program and an affiliates program, both of which can help point you towards organizations and resources that are beyond the scope of what we provide. We also welcome your news as well as guest blog posts and job offers and opportunities to be posted on our website. Our community forum is a Google group that is specific for people interested in gateways to pose questions and connect with people that way. It's a little bit more informal than our newsletter that we send out monthly. And of course, the annual conference is a great opportunity for networking. So that's pretty much the big picture of what SGCI offers. And of course, our website, sciencegateways.org, has more information about all of those things. If you have any questions, you can always also reach out to us by email at help@sciencegateways.org. So my last request for you is that towards the end of this event, today, I will post this link to our webinar evaluation on the chat, and I hope that you will give us feedback. It helps us to be able to share with the National Science Foundation that we are having impact and people appreciate this webinar series, which is free. But also there is one question, there's two really short questions about how valuable this was for you, but also an opportunity for you to let us know if there are topics that you'd like to hear more about, because in fact, this series, this being the second of our multi-part series on gateway platforms, came about because people were asking for introductions to various common gateway platforms. So, so do give us your feedback there to let us know what more topics you would like to hear about. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and let our presenter, Nate, take over. Nate Snodgrass works for HUBzero. He also is part of the SGCI team and provides expertise about some of the financial and budgeting considerations that you might want to keep in mind as you build a gateway. But he knows everything that there is to know that you might want to know about HUBzero, although I know he's not technically on the technical side of it, but boy, does he know his stuff. So I'm really pleased to be able to hand you off to Nate, who is here to talk about that today.
All right. Thank you, Catherine, so much. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to be here and share more about HUBzero with you all today. Let me share my screen here.
And it looks good, just so you know, you can see it.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so like Catherine said, I work for HUBzero. My title with that project is a project manager. We also have some other folks from our team that are on the webinar today. And if we have some questions that they are better suited to answer at the end, they might be pitching in and helping do that. Because as Catherine said, I don't know everything about HUBzero, but hopefully I know enough to help educate you a little bit today. So HUBzero is a Science Gateway platform. We are an SGCI affiliate, and we are definitely engaged with a lot of the SGCI initiatives. Some examples of that are we are involved with providing consulting services through extended developer support. We are involved with the Incubator Focus Week and providing some instruction there, and I've also assisted with creating and maintaining the Gateways catalog. So what exactly is HUBzero? So we are an open source software platform that's used for building powerful science gateways, or what we call hubs. Those hubs can host analytical tools, they can publish data. They're great places to share resources and collaborate with your community of like-minded people that are interested in what you're doing and your discipline. And that's all housed in one single web-based ecosystem. We have been around, the HUBzero platform has been around since about 2008. And so we've been doing this for a little while now. And we've done that and performed with greater than 99% uptime for our clients. And so a hub is a great place for your community to get together, and it's a way to connect with new audiences or generate a wider audience than what you might have today. It's a place where it can really help you measure the impact of what you're doing in your research project. And it's also a great place that provides sustainability for your projects that can be available out there for the world to access. And it's a place that we really try to work hard with people to maintain and sustain the projects and be available for as long as possible. One update about the HUBzero team and what we've been up to over the past year or so is that we officially moved from Purdue University to the University of California, San Diego in 2019. And we're now part of the San Diego Supercomputer Center. This is really a good opportunity for us, a good learning opportunity, and an opportunity to reevaluate where we are, what we do, and how we do things. And it's really been a great opportunity as well to collaborate with the research-focused team at SDSC. And specifically, we've been working closely with a DevOps group there that's been assisting us through the whole move and transitioning, that has a lot of experience running research infrastructure and working with a large number of researchers in a wide array of research disciplines. And so we're really getting some best practices and getting some good feedback from them on how we can improve and make things run a little bit better and a little bit more efficiently. And so we're going to be handing off some more of those kind of operational type of functions to this group at SDSC and letting them run more of the ops side, because we've been doing that with the existing team that we have, and that can take up quite a bit of time and effort and resources to do that. And what we're really excited about as a result of that is having some more time and resources that we can then dedicate to the development side and creating new things and continuously improving that we just didn't always have the bandwidth to do in the past. So we're excited about that, and as well as the new collaboration opportunities, not only with the DevOps group at SDSC, but there's some new compute infrastructure that's coming on board at SDSC with a couple of pretty significant awards they've received. One is with the Expanse supercomputer. That was about a $10 million award. And the other is with Cloud Bank. That was about $5 million. And so getting some conventional as well as commercial type of compute coming online here in the near future with them. And so we're really excited to see what we might be able to do with those new projects that are going to be coming on board at SDSC. And we've also been in discussions with groups like TAC about how we can join forces and collaborate on some things and help each other out in some ways. So to give you a little overview here of the HUBzero architecture, so we do have a diagram over here, and we're really, as I said, we're reevaluating things that were kind of spurred by this move to SDSC. And one of the things that we're looking at doing is looking at some more modern infrastructure options for our platform's architecture. For example, we're going to be upgrading to CentOS 8 here in the near future. And we're just looking at a number of ways where we can continue to become a little bit more modern in what we're doing behind the scenes. So as you see here, we kind of have a fairly standard LAMP stack on the front end that's PHP based, and PHP based application that's integrated with MySQL. Then our middleware library allows the PHP application to launch and manage private execution environments. And so that middleware library is composed of a lot of different parts that are shown here that can handle traffic from the beginning of a tool session to when you're going to terminate that tool session. And so for each tool session, you will get an isolated, private, secure execution environment. And within that can be deployed a broad range of different types of tools, as well as setting up access to high performance computing resources. And we've had quite a bit of experience with integrating with different computing cluster resources. And our middleware allows us to adjust that as needed to work seamlessly with the different types of HPC or cluster resources that are out there. And so all of this, your access point for all of this is through the functionality that is contained in your web browser. With here, you just get a little better idea of how our web features are interacting with the architecture. And so for the collaboration features that we're going to get into a little bit later, and diving into some of our feature set. So things like forums and collections and authentication logins are going to be interacting with the web code, PHP, Apache, HTML, and JavaScript, interacting with database tables and records, as well as authentication services. We do have the ability to use external services like Facebook or Google, etc., to handle authentication. And then if you're into uploading files for publications or resources, it's going to be interacting with, again, with database tables and records. It's going to be using hard disk storage, and we also have user quotas for a user's home directory that would be in play as well. And diving into the middleware architecture a little bit further, this diagram shows you from start to finish how you would fire up a tool or an application. And so just walking through that here, a user would come to the gateway or the hub, and they would sign in with their login and password. They would find the tool or application that they would want to run and click the launch tool button. That would then route to the middleware client, where it's going to check that user login, and it's going to create a new session ID and interact with the middleware database. Then the middleware dispatch is going to notify the middleware service on the execution host. And on the middleware service on the execution host, it's going to use an LDAP query. It's going to mount file systems. It's going to create that separate private execution host container and notify the client for a database record update. And then, so that previous diagram is how to start up a tool or application, and then the termination process and how you would close that down. Each tool would have a terminate button that you would click to stop it, which is important because running too many applications or tools simultaneously can really can bog down your performance. So it's important to shut those off when they're not in use. The middleware client would then determine who the user is. It would attach that or find the session that's associated with that user and go to the execution host. The file systems would then be unmounted, the container destroyed, the database record would get updated with the termination, and then a copy of the session log files would then go to the web host. And so that was kind of a walk through our architecture and how that looks. And like I mentioned before, we're really looking at moving towards more modern technologies and methodologies to make the HUBzero platform more of a turnkey solution the best that we can. So one of the things that we've been working on is implementing Docker. And so and what really kind of initiated that again was moving to SDSC and having to rethink how we're doing things. And so through doing that move, we've discontinued the use of OpenVZ, and we're moving to the more modern technology of Docker for most of our hosted hubs. And we're still working through some of that, but we're happy with the progress that we've made. And we're ultimately going to be using Docker images and files for tools and being able to run those individually on a hub. We'll also be providing a Docker option for open source hubs or gateways later this year, towards the end of 2020. Another thing that we've done to become a little bit more modern is previously we'd used a configuration manager called Ogre that was custom built, and we've now adopted more of an industry standard in Ansible. And the team at SGCI really helped us a lot with that and figuring that out. And Ansible is, like I said, more of an industry standard configuration manager. It's really helped us automate some things and make some things more efficient. We're still working through fine-tuning some of those configuration settings and making sure we've got that optimized to get the best performance possible. But overall, we think it's really going to be helpful for us to be using this new technology and Ansible and what all that's going to be able to provide us. And then the third there is the BOINC project is something that we've been closely involved with, particularly Steve Clark on our team is a software engineer, and he's worked a lot with BOINC, which is a volunteer computing project. And Steve's been working with our Nanohub gateway on using this volunteer computing resource to run simulation jobs. And being able to do that seamlessly through our gateway, and he's got it to the point now where we're now running thousands of simulation jobs through BOINC for Nanohub that were previously running on our own infrastructure or other HPC resources. And so we're excited about the possibilities there and potentially expanding that out to other hubs to be able to take advantage of as well. So after covering the kind of the architecture of our platform, we're going to get into what some of the features are. And so HUBzero has a lot of built-in components and features that become standard, and they're pretty easy to get deployed quickly in a matter of seconds in most cases. And so kind of the overarching feature sets fall into a few categories here, which are applications, communities, and publications. And something that's nice too is that you're not forced to have all these features or components turned on that come standard within the hub, that you can decide, pick and choose which ones you want to utilize that are most relevant to your community. And then if your community is growing and there is a demand or a need to use some more of the features, you're able to quickly turn those on and get those up and going to meet the needs of your community. Also want to note that if you are out there looking at some of our hubs, that you might see some features that have been custom developed or were custom developed by the owners of the hub itself. And so that's something to keep in mind, and we're always happy to chat about some of those. But there are some customizations that have been done that are unique to specific hubs. And so the first one we're going to dive into here is the running of applications. So every instance of HUBzero, you're able to run online tools or applications on your hub. There's a variety of different types of tools. You can see here we've got a lot of Linux tools, Jupyter Notebooks, RStudio, RShiny apps, as well as some standalone web apps. We feel like HUBzero is somewhat unique in that it can serve both more research-oriented needs, where you're submitting jobs to high-performance computing resources that are running more intense simulations. But at the same time, we're also able to serve more educational or instructional needs, where, for example, a student might be in a classroom or a lab and needing to submit and get results from a tool or application immediately there in class to finish an assignment. And so we feel like we're able to meet both of those needs that are kind of at different ends of the spectrum pretty well. And our use case here that we're going to focus on is Nanohub. And just a little background about Nanohub is it's really the granddaddy of HUBzero. It started back in 2002 with the formation of a center called NCN, which is the Network for Computational Nanotechnology. And the mission of that group was to create, deploy, and operate a national resource for theory modeling and simulation for nanotechnology. And through that project was created this software platform that eventually became HUBzero and was then spun off and offered to a wide array of different folks that wanted to adopt this platform for use for their gateways. And what Nanohub has become is really a place where researchers and educators meet to get real work done. It's been around for quite a while. And you can see here in some of the graphics that they're up to an average of about 1.6 million unique visitors each year. They have about 200,000 registered users. They host 5,000 lectures and tutorials on their hub. But most importantly, and what we're going to cover here is what they do for simulation tools and running applications that they need for research and education. So currently, users of Nanohub can access over 600 interactive and graphical tools that don't just launch jobs, but they also help with visualization and analyzing the results all within your web browser. So you can kind of see through the graphic there an example of one with the 3D wave functions and how that would look within the hub itself. And what our middleware does is it hides a lot of the complexity that goes into running these applications and tools. The complexity of like tapping into grid computing or HPC resources, handling authentication and authorization, doing file transfers and visualization. And so all those things are kind of taken care of and managed behind the scenes, and it lets the people that are coming to Nanohub focus on their work more. Something else I wanted to touch on here, since sustainability was a theme of this talk as well, is that Nanohub has gotten several years of funding from NSF, and they're kind of in their last 5-year award for that. And so they're really focused on sustainability right now. And some of the things that they're really focused on and trying to think about how to sustain this longer term is really driving an increase in their users. Even though they've had a lot of success and do have a pretty gaudy number of users that come and use their gateway, they're looking at how they can grow that even more. And so they've really dug into analyzing who their users are and figuring out what they're doing and where their users are, where are they located, and where they work. And so they've figured out kind of the main groups and types of users that come to their hub, which are self-study, research, and students. They've tapped into geolocation databases and analyzed computing hours that are utilized on the hub. They've figured out better ways for counting how their tools and how the resources are used within classes. And by figuring out some of these things and digging into them a little bit more, they're really looking to get more champions out there. So by analyzing this data, figuring out who's using their hub a lot and how they can collaborate and connect with those people to spread the word more than they are today, and maybe find people that they didn't know about previously. And something else that they found too is, I think their hypothesis was that it was used primarily by researchers and for research needs. And when they dig into the data, they actually found that it's really heavily used for education and instruction, more so than they thought. And so kind of figuring out how to tailor the hub and what's on there to meet those needs better than they were previously, and kind of shifting a focus towards that to grow that section of their market as well is the types of things that they're looking at doing for sustainability. And again, like I mentioned before, BOINC has been a big project for Nanohub, and tapping into some of those volunteer computing resources that are available through the BOINC project. Next, wanted to cover the communities aspect and features of the hub. And so a hub is not only a great place to run those tools and applications and simulations, but it's also a great place to build a community around the content and the resources that you have. And so it's a space for teams and collaborators to get together and talk about your science, talk about your data, track progress, share things, share files. We're able to integrate with Google Drive and Dropbox and other file services that you might already use today. And there are some main key components of the communities and the collaboration spaces. The first one there is groups. And so within a hub, you're able to create and set up a group based on a specific interest or a specific field or subset of your discipline or field, where you can have, within that group, you can have content and conversation with, you can either open it up publicly to the whole world, or you can set permissions and access to a group to be designated people or people that are invited to your group and have a more private discussion or private sharing. And each group comes with the ability to create its own content pages. You're able to manage group membership. You can send announcements. There's an events calendar that can be used for your group. You can publish a blog, share ideas through collections, which we'll cover in a second, discuss things through a discussion forum, etc. And so there's a lot of feature sets you can have within the group functionality of the hub. Projects are another key feature. So if you're working on a new funding proposal or a research paper, if you're developing an application, the projects feature is a good way to manage that project, manage the data that you're using, manage the communication and working together in one space. Again, the project space comes with a to-do list where you can manage the things that are needed to be done. The project comes with connections to file services if needed, or you can use the file storage that's available within the hub. And then when you're finished with the project, you can then publish whatever your final product is straight to the hub. And so if you created a paper or you created an application or tool from that project, it could then be directly deployed and published on the hub itself. There's also wiki pages, which most everyone's probably familiar with, where you can have different contributors and editors create new articles in the wiki. And then collections are a quick and easy way to share and organize information within the hub. So you might start with an image or a file or a link to resources found on the web. And then you're able to share that in a post in the collections feature. And so if you're creating a post, you would upload materials or connect links from the web to that post, and then the community members or the people within that group could then see that you posted something new. They could follow your posts, and they could create posts of their own to share different materials and resources as well. And another nice thing about the group space is that you can do some customized branding for your group. And so it doesn't necessarily have to look exactly like the branding of the rest of the hub itself. So you could put your own logo in there for your group and customize some of that look and feel to have it really seem like a separate place for this group you want to interact with. And so the use case here that I was going to touch on is MyGeoHub. And so MyGeoHub is a geospatial science gateway. It supports geospatial modeling and data analysis and visualization. And it's also focused on educating communities and providing training materials and educational contents as well. But what they've done that's a little bit unique is you can see here on the screenshot from their gateway is that they've consolidated several projects or groups that needed a place to stay. So some of these might have been projects that had come to an end of funding from a grant, or and were looking for a place to sustain themselves. And so what MyGeoHub has done is provided a place for them to do that. And so each of these is actually a supergroup, and a supergroup is similar to what I talked about on the previous slide, similar to groups, but is somewhat different and unique in the fact that it really becomes a mini hub within the hub, or kind of a mini gateway within the gateway, where these projects can take all of the work that they had done previously and place it here together under the roof of MyGeoHub. And so each group is, again, able to have its own custom branding and custom template for their supergroup. It's a place for them to continue to collaborate and manage their members separately, and also continue to have access to computing resources. And so this is a good sustainability initiative too that MyGeoHub has provided in partnering with these groups that needed a place to stay and may not have had the funding to continue to host their own gateway, but they can team up here, and it's grown the community overall. And MyGeoHub is also has a great team for their group, a team of experts that really provides a lot of technical support to these groups that they're hosting, and a lot of training. And the MyGeoHub team's also developed a lot of tools in the geospatial and earth sciences space. And it's led by Carol Song and her team at Purdue. They've been great partners to us over the years. The third main feature we're going to touch on here is the publications. So there's several ways to publish data or information on the hub. There is a workflow. It's a step-by-step process or system that kind of walks you through how to do a publication, whether that's a research paper or a data set or an application or tool. It's a very simple step-by-step process to walk you through how to do that. There's the capability to have a minted digital object identifier, or DOI, at the end of the publication. And that's an integration that can be done within the hub by setting up an account with a DOI provider of your choice. A license can be attributed to the publication. And there's also the opportunity for it to be peer reviewed. And so you could have the designated curators, you have people assigned to review things that are published on the hub. And there's a workflow for them to do that. If there were things that needed to be adjusted or edited, the publication could be pushed back to whoever submitted it. And they could then make edits and then resubmit for final approval. Our use case here is going to be the Purdue University Research Repository, which is also known as PUR. PUR is a research collaboration in data management space that is used at Purdue for researchers there. It allows them to collaborate on research and publish their data sets online. Many examples of the types of things that they're publishing. It can be from spreadsheets to source code to survey results or interview transcripts, etc. And so there's a lot of different disciplines represented here, and a lot of different types of data and publications that are housed in PUR. And what it does is it provides your research that's on PUR to be available and reused and cited by other researchers. And they're able to use that to reproduce your research. The data sets on PUR are kept out there a minimum of 10 years as part of their policy. And something to note here is we're currently working on refactoring publications and redoing that features based on usability feedback, and working on simplifying the publication process and kind of re-architecting that to be a little bit more modern look and feel. And so we're in the testing phase of that now, and we expect that to be deployed on Per here soon. This is just a further visual kind of overview of the three main features of the applications, collaboration, and publications. But it gives you an idea that some of the components and features within each of those higher level areas do have some overlap with each other. I think I've hit on most of these already earlier in the presentation. And so we had a few use cases there, but I also wanted to share a little bit about some other disciplines that are served by HUBzero that are pretty cool, and some of them are potentially a little bit unique. So the first one is HUBs, which HUBs stands for the Quantitative Undergraduate Biology and Education Synthesis. And this is a community of educators that are in the math and biology field that use this space to share resources and teaching methods that help prepare students in using quantitative approaches to solving real world problems. Social Media Macroscope is one that it's a little bit unique in that what they are doing is providing tools that are analyzing social media data and providing analytics and visualization for that data. And they really want it to be easy to use and available for both researchers and for students at different levels of experience. And so they've got a couple of custom web applications that they've made that are pretty cool. And so they will dive into Twitter and different social media platforms, and then provide data that can then be analyzed. Hub is another project that we work with, and they're focused on STEM education, and it's a collection of different projects around STEM education. And it's another good example of how the communities and collaboration features of the Hub are used with the STEM related disciplines here for Hub. Hub ICL. ICL stands for Intercultural Learning, and so it's a place where they have developed a toolbox that provides resources, mostly teaching resources on teaching groups or even individuals about kind of intercultural competence, diversity, inclusion, and those types of things. So that's another one that's a little bit unique. We also have HUBzero, which is focused on the preservation of human-animal bond research. And so it has a large online library of resources that are around the human and animal interaction research field. And then Catalyzed Care is one that's focused on healthcare professional communities, and that really wants to improve things like patient safety and how healthcare is delivered. As I mentioned, a little bit about the file services and authentication integrations. This is a look at what some of our integrations and collaborations have been that are available. And we're always looking for new ways and new integrations to do where it makes sense, and especially if it's something that is available the Hub doesn't provide, or something that is out there that does something really well that we are interested in getting into developing something customized for, then we're always interested in what integrations our community is interested in adding. And just to touch on the services that we provide. So if you're interested in having a gateway, or you do have a gateway, you probably will find out that users expect your gateway to be up and running 24/7, 365. And so meeting that challenge, it requires a lot of effort and time and resources. And so, not everyone has the capabilities on their team or the resources on a team to have a dedicated IT resource or an IT team. And so that's where we can come in and help a gateway with our no hassle hosting option. And so what that provides is we will stand up your gateway for you, set up all the infrastructure, help you with the design and designing the look and feel and the template, provide training, support ticket resolution. The infrastructure is in a secure machine room. We provide all the security needs and backups, etc. And so that's our main service offering. And we are an open source platform, so open source is also an option. If you have the time and resources and know-how to do the hosting on your own, then that's something that is definitely an option as well. If you are wanting to know more about us, you can visit our website at HUBzero.org. We have documentation out there for both Hub managers and Hub users. And we also have an email that you can reach out to us if you have questions or comments at info@hubzero.org. Lastly, I'd just really like to thank our community sincerely. We are our community of customers for allowing us to serve them and help them provide a gateway to showcase all of the great work that they're doing. We appreciate our community so much, and obviously wouldn't be where we are today without the partnerships and collaborations we've had with these groups. And so that is it for the presentation. It looks like there's
fantastic. Well, there's a lot in chat that Claire has answered on your behalf, which is good, but we have a question. Yeah, pretty awesome. But there was a question early on about when around the time you were talking about transitioning your technology, partly with as you're moving with your move to SDSC. So one question was, if you're transitioning technology, how are you maintaining operations during the transition?
Yeah, so the way that we did that, and that might be a better question for Eric to answer because he was more involved with that than I. So I think I'll actually pass that off to him, and he can probably answer it in a little more depth than I would be able to.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that works, Nate. Hi, everyone. So when we had to schedule downtime, of course, when we migrated a host or a hub and their data from Purdue to SDSC. So when we built the new infrastructure and we built the hub, I shouldn't say new infrastructure, but we built the hub and the new infrastructure at SDSC. We included the change to the new technology. So the hub isn't live or wasn't live during the transition of the technology. It was a hard switch from, okay, at Purdue you're using OpenVZ, now that we've migrated all your data to SDSC and you're using Docker. And we extensively tested that before doing that at the hosts that were at SDSC.
So it sounds like that transition was invisible to people who are using it in terms of the behind the scenes technology that's making everything run. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Magic. Wow, that's cool. Thank you. And then the only other question that we've not answered, and I'm not entirely sure quite where it might fit in, but you were talking about some of the DOIs or the posting information and so forth, and Jack asked, can you subscribe to FigShare DOI services from within HUBzero?
I don't know much about FigShare DOI services, but Jack, I can definitely look into that for you. If FigShare mints DOIs, then I do think that could probably be done. But like I said, I'd have to check into that in a little more depth just to make sure.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. Right now, the hub is configured to get to obtain DOIs from DataCite and EasyID if they're still around. So we have the ability to add them, and there's a configuration setting to add additional DOI providers. We just have to write a bit of code to add the additional provider.
Okay, that sounds like, yeah, because Jack added for, any free DOI service would be great. So it sounds like there's some that are already available. That's great, thanks. So we don't have any other new questions coming through just yet. For those of you, oh, here we go. Here's a new one from Sebastian. Let's see here. This is an SGCI question, so that I don't think you want to answer that, Nate, but Sebastian, I can take your question. I can respond to you by email. If you want to just send us a question to help@sciencegateways.org, I can answer that for you directly. So why don't I take a moment while people think about what other questions they might have, and if you want to stop sharing your screen, Nate, I will share some information about our upcoming webinar, which is also part of this series. I'll just share momentarily. Here we go. So hopefully you can all see this. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows. So this is part 2 of a multi-part series. We'll have, I'm anticipating at least 5 or 6 different platforms featured as webinar topics over the course of the coming year. On April 8th, we will have the Building Science Gateways with Apache Aravata and SciGap services, featuring 3 of our colleagues, as well as Indiana University-based folks, Marlon Pierce, Suresh Maru, and Marcus Christie. They're all at Indiana University and also part of the SGCI team, and they help with some of the consulting that we provide for hands-on support. That's coming up in April. In May, now I should have probably looked this up ahead of time, but we also have coming up Galaxy, and we have some others that have offered to talk, but we haven't scheduled them yet. So I just thought I'd mention that. I'd also point out again, here are the links for both the student focus programs and Focus Week, both of which are open for applicants. The Focus Week deadline for the June session is end of March, March 27th, I think. And if any of you are thinking about going to the November, December one, that you have plenty of time for that. So, so I think, let's see, I'm looking there. I have not seen any more questions come through for you, Nate. So I think Claire did a good job of covering all that. So what we could do is,
yeah, go Claire. That's great.
Yeah, way to go. It's nice to have all those sorts of things going on in the background. Oh, sorry, we missed one. Jeff, let's see here. Let me go up. Oh, there we go. How are you determining your roadmap and setting priorities? I mean, how do you get feedback from users and administrators, and is it working well for you?
So the way we get a lot of our feedback, or kind of realize what some of the needs might be, are each hub has a support ticketing system, and we're, as part of our hosting service, we provide, support resolution. And so where a lot of requests or, issues or kind of maybe even wish list types of things will come through is through our support tickets. It works. It works okay. I think a lot of it comes through the feedback. It comes through our direct interactions with people, and so we try to have periodic touch points with each of our clients and seeing where things are at, and just kind of in the course of those discussions is where a lot of those things will come up as well. And then, from the communities of each hub, it's a similar kind of process where they will get support tickets or requests from their communities that might drive different feature changes or needs, etc.
So,
okay.
Sorry, if I
go ahead.
I can jump in and cite a couple of examples here. Collections I always thought was an interesting one. We're building that. We were joking around that it's Pinterest for scientists, because that was the need of the client at the time, that they just wanted to quickly share something without going through a resource publication process. A couple other driving factors are from developers a lot of times. they wanted to use more modern technology, like Docker, for instance. And they said, well, you're on OpenVZ, that doesn't help me. And then there's also security concerns, the push for, which is our next like high profile task, is upgrading to CentOS 8 because operating systems age, as do the packages and software in them, and we have to keep that updated. So there's quite a number of factors that push us to continue to update our system, and we prioritize as best we can.
Great. We do actually have another couple questions that have come in. From Jack asked, is the HUBzero Foundation still alive for self-hosted hubs?
So Jack, through this transition to SDSC, the HUBzero Foundation is going to be dissolved, at least with how it existed previously. But we are looking at what our service offering is going to be to fill that space that will continue. We don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but that's something that we will have some kind of service offering for those users in the future, but it's still a work in progress at this time.
Great. And then we also have a question, are your hubs discipline specific or principal investigator driven?
I guess it depends. They're really fairly discipline specific, but I think they can evolve over time. At least they probably start out as more discipline specific. And I think discipline specific and principal investigator driven probably go hand in hand, because there's typically one principal investigator that is leading the charge to set up a gateway. So whatever field or discipline they're in is probably going to be what the gateway is going to be focused on and about.
Yeah, and I would just throw in there, it does seem to me that in general for gateways, they're generally prompted by either a PI who has a grant or a set of PIs who have a grant around some topic. In some cases, it's meant to be integrating across disciplines, and in other cases, it's very much discipline specific. And then, but when it is, it's quite often by someone who sees a vision of a need to serve that community, particularly because gateways are meant to be so often a community resource. And then in some cases, I guess you could still consider it to be PI driven, but it's more like an association or an organization that wants to provide some kind of channel for their gateways for their community members to do some kind of activity. So as an example, and I don't know if this was in your slide of all the different examples at the end, but the Botanical Society of America, or National Botanical Society, anyway, it's a botanical society that uses HUBzero, and they have a gateway called Planting Science, and that is essentially to help students in high schools and below, also I think a little bit, do science experiments around plants, but with mentors from scientific areas and so forth. And so that's driven by the people who are at that nonprofit. So that just maybe that helps also to kind of convey that blend of where gateways and hubs and other sorts of things like that are motivated. I hope that helps anyway. Let's see here. And so the person who posted that question also said, we also do share all the hubs we work with at hubzero.org/sites and encourage partner. Oh, no, sorry, Claire answered that, sorry. So, okay, we are good there. So, and I see that it is the top of the hour. So, you know what I'm going to do is say thank you so much, Nate, and also thank you, Eric, and Claire for chiming in with your answers to make life easier for Nate. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, and this recording will be posted online and generally gets up there within a day. So we'll have the slides and recording up there for you to share with your colleagues or review very soon. So
right.
thank you, everyone. Thanks for
everyone.
joining us.